The O'Reilly Factor is on tonight.
In our hearts, in our minds, Crimea has always been an integral part of Russia.
There is danger ahead for the USA because of Putin's aggressive land grab. Tonight we'll tell you what that danger is, and Charles Krauthammer will analyze.
I can't handle a media on this. I literally cannot. I can't handle. We've got anchors and anchorettes who don't know beans about even why an airplane flies.
Rush Limbaugh and others, including me, are disturbed by the irresponsible news coverage of the missing jetliner. But the folks seem to want it. We'll find out why.
While a grand jury will ultimately decide the father's fate, prosecutor Warren DeProm believes any criminal charges in this case are unlikely.
Also tonight, a Texas man shoots a teenager dead in his daughter's bedroom. Why are authorities not charging him? Is it legal? On the case.
Caution. You are about to enter the no-spin zone. The Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. America in danger. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. The blatant violation of international law by Russia puts all of us, in serious jeopardy. Because Putin is getting away with seizing land that belongs to Ukraine, other bad people are taking notice. Today, Putin justified his aggressive action.
Our main partners in the United States, in their practical policy, prefer not to use international law, but the law of the strong and what they're doing. They believe in their uniqueness, that they can rule the world, that they can always be right.
It's clear Putin is going to do exactly what he wants to do, and that includes taking over weak countries. He well understands the Western democracies are weak themselves, debt-ridden, and selfish. Therefore, we can expect the following unintended consequences. A, North Korea most likely get more aggressive toward South Korea. Last weekend, they fired missiles in a provocative way. B, the Syrian butcher Assad will most likely regain control of that country, and another bloodbath will ensue. C, China will most likely seize a small island chain currently governed by Japan. And worst of all, Iran will most likely ramp up its nuclear weapons activity, knowing that Putin will no longer embrace sanctions once the West starts to sanction him. President Obama has announced that the G7 will meet next week in Holland to discuss punishing Russia. If the G7 does impose harsh sanctions, Putin will then align himself with Iran, knocking out the nuke weapons negotiations. So you can see what a big mess this is. And you can also see that President Obama has little power to do much about it. In the short term, Putin is willing to take some economic pain to conquer territory, and believe me, this thug is not going to stop. He's going to cause as much trouble as he can because that diverts attention away from the bad Russian economy. By using military power, Putin becomes a big hero, rather than being seen as the incompetent administrator he is. The truth is that President Obama tried a soft power policy, and it has failed dismally. We're living in a very dangerous world where killers rule, intimidate, and inflict massive damage on innocent people. The North Koreans, Chinese, Iranians, and Syrians will kill anybody without remorse. So while many Americans are obsessed with a missing jetliner in South Asia, they are totally missing the danger that confronts this country. Back in 1979, Iranians took 52 American hostages and held them for about a year and a half. That destroyed President Carter's credibility. It ruined him. Now President Obama is facing a similar situation with Putin. And make no mistake about it, Putin's out to destroy Barack Obama and badly damage the USA. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction. Joining us in Washington, Fox News political analyst Charles Krauthammer. So where am I going wrong here, Charles?
Well, not really wrong very badly, but you are. I think you're giving too much credit to the Russian supposed help to us in negotiations with Syria and Iran up until now, pre-Crimea. The Russians were never on our side. The Russians have blocked real sanctions against Iran all the way through, and the Russians have been completely behind Syria's government, which has been killing its people in the tens of thousands. The real area where the Crimea invasion and annexation is going to have an effect is in what was until now relatively quiet Eastern Europe, NATO, the frontier of Russia. What this does is this unsettles every country on the frontier of Ukraine, and that means especially the Poles, the Hungarians, Slovakians, Romanians, and even more nervous are the three Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, in the north, because remember, Bill, they were actually part of the Soviet Union. And they're about 40% of Estonia are Russian speakers. Russia looks at Estonia the way it looks at Ukraine. That's why we have the vice president now, although that's not going to do any good. But that's the best Obama could do. That's why the vice president is now in Poland on his way to Latvia, because he's got to calm these people down. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Eastern Europe.
All right.
And that's where the nervousness is
But
beginning.
I'm advancing the story beyond that, all right? I think China is going to move on these islands, and nobody's going to do anything about it, okay? I think North Korea is going to up it and start provoking South Korea. I think those are two. But Iran's the worst. This could lead to world war. Because what Iran is going to do, if the G7 punish Putin, which they almost have to do next week, all right, then Putin's going to basically tell Iran, you do what you want, and I'll back you, all right? I'll supply weapons, I'll supply money, whatever they reimpose, we'll sell you whatever you need. Israel's going to pick that up right away, and they're going to bomb Iran. They're not going to wait around. Once Putin starts to say, sanctions, forget it, then Israel's going to move. They move, this war. That is what could happen off this Crimea thing.
I don't think it comes off the Crimea thing. That's the reason I disagree. What happened with Iran is not that Russia is going to change its mind and refuse to back sanctions. What happened with Iran is that this administration, long before Crimea, because it does not understand the world one iota, agreed to this interim deal with Iran, which is a farce. It's been a farce from day one. Everyone knows there's not going to be a final deal. Everyone knows it didn't do anything to stop the Iranian program. Everyone knows it leaves Iran about 6 weeks away from going nuclear. But the key to this interim agreement was a relaxation of sanctions, really hard, tough sanctions that have been relaxed.
Yeah, but
As a
Putin
result,
was on board with the sanctions. At least he was publicly.
Putin has been talking to Iran over the last few months, before Crimea, about $1.5 billion a month deal, oil for goods.
Right.
He's ready to break the sanctions. It didn't have anything to do with Crimea.
And he's going to break them. He's going to break them, and then when he breaks them...
The Iranian currency is already on the rebound. Iran is already negotiating with delegations of West Europeans. Forget about the Russians. It is Obama who broke the sanctions.
But
the
you're not
embargo
disagreeing with me that once this, and June 1st is a date, once this so-called temporary treaty, or whatever you want to call it, goes down, Israel's going to move. And once Israel moves, then you're going to have all hell break loose in that region. I mean, everybody's going to be fighting everybody. And I'm saying it's off Crimea because Crimea gives Putin an excuse to move, all right? You punish Putin. Putin's not going to sit there and take that punishment. He's going to cause trouble. And the place he's going to cause trouble is Iran. That's what he's going to do. And he sees weakness across the Western world. He doesn't see anybody capable of standing up to him. And he's going to ride roughshod. And you mark my words, Charles. I'll give you the last word on it.
Look, I think what's happening now is the entire world, Iran, China, North Korea, the Russians, everybody understands that this administration is living in a fantasy world. They think it's the 21st century. And as John Kerry said, these things like the invasion of Crimea do not happen in the 21st century. For God's sake, they've already happened.
That's right.
They're still living on the moon, and they know America is nowhere to be seen under this administration. Well, and that's why the bad guys are emboldened, and they will be everywhere. On that, I do agree.
Absolutely, and we better wise up fast. Now, we're going to hold Charles over to talk about this jetliner mystery, which is completely out of control right now. And later, a father shoots his daughter's boyfriend in his own home, kills him, and will likely not be prosecuted. Factor's coming right back.